Well, let's fill up on some food-related stocks, right? It's just after lunchtime. Bring in our expert panel. Arun Sundaram is with us, equity analyst over at CFRA Research, and Ryan Patel, global business executive. I know you've had some experience in this world as well, right? Building businesses. Tell me a little bit, Ryan, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on some of these grocery names, Kroger, Walmart, its debut today that it has, Walmart Plus. What are your thoughts on the businesses? Are you sort of saying some are better than others, and why?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're looking at the long-term view, I think Kroger has been not as performing as the rest of its peers, so you would think that there's some upside for them. I do have to highlight Walmart because I think the evolution of what the groceries are and the news that they've done over the last 2 weeks is something to watch. And what I mean by that, they did 2 drone deals of potentially testing grocery drop-offs next year. And we're there's so many questions behind that, but you talk about what Walmart is doing to try to take the battles with Amazon on the grocery side to next levels. As an investor, if you're thinking long on Walmart, you like to see that they're continuing to pushing the innovation and forward as fast as they can and not sitting back to see what works. So it's very interesting, the grocery space. Let me tell you, it's going to look a lot different than it did last year, come next year, because with the curbside pickup, there's a lot of nuances that majorities of these grocery chains need to continue to do in the future.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Arun, I'm glad you're on with us over from CFRA. I know you have some key research, some charts showing the grocery sales. The question is, I think everybody ran to the grocery stores right during the pandemic, myself included, right? We always used to order in. We live in New York City. We almost never cooked. And then during the pandemic, we started cooking every single night, three meals a day. We gave more grocery business than we ever did. So now what? Now, tomorrow we have on the Whole Foods CEO here on our show. I mean, what should I ask him? Because we know that they had a lot of people running to the stores, but now what?
Yeah, I think the question going forward is how much of this elevated demand will stick over the long term, right? So as you said, in March, when everyone ran to the grocery stores, that's when sales peaked, food at home demand peaked during March. And since then, it has been moderating. But it's important to know that it's still remaining relatively elevated. I think grocery store sales are still up about double digits, which is, very high compared to pre-COVID days when, grocery sales would increase about 1 or 2%. But one takeaway that we have as a firm is we think the food at home consumption and food at home demand will remain elevated for longer than many other analysts and investors think. We think a lot of analysts are modeling a steep deceleration in at-home food sales beginning in Q3. But we think the deceleration will not be as steep as many think, and that's largely because the recovery in the restaurant industry is slowing down after a strong recovery in May and June. And I think there's risk that the restaurant industry's recovery could plateau in the coming months when the weather gets colder and outdoor dining is limited. And then also with government stimulus efforts winding down and a possibility of a resurgence of COVID-19 cases, these are all risks for the restaurant industry, which I think will benefit grocery store sales going forward.
Right. And Arun, I'm going to ask you what your favorites are, and you make a great point with the restaurant industry. As it gets colder, how much can people really dine out, right? I mean, when you look at that overall. Ryan, what are your thoughts on some of the other names? Starbucks, for example, said comp sales were down 11%. Beyond Meat has some key competitors. So we have different elements of food and drink, food and beverage. You have grocery stores, you have experience, you have, do people get the paychecks that they hope to buy these things?
Yeah, it's very interesting because I'm with Arun. I don't think this is going to stop anytime soon. You're going to see consumer packaged goods sales, and you mentioned, Nicole, how your pattern of going to the grocery stores. I mean, think about picking up curbside. Like that has become. I can't even remember now going into the store now. That's become a part of my daily routine. And not to say I'm like everybody else, but it is something that you have to change. So what that means is places in the, you look at what, even what Pepsi's done. I mean, you look at what health and wellness, and they've kind of gone into they've announced kind of this new drink called Driftwell, which is supposed to come back, kind of help you sleep at nighttime. And you go, well, why are they getting into things like that? It's a $2.97 billion market and functional water from last year. And so when you start to see that, you look at what Starbucks is doing. And in Asia, now I take, when Starbucks does new things, I pay attention, especially when they try to test it overseas. And they are including in the menu items Impossible Foods, Oatly, Beyond Meat, in not just in Hong Kong, but in Thailand and other places. And you kind of go, okay, the plant protein has been on a rise, right? Obviously, one can argue that Beyond Meat is maybe a little overvaluated and maybe put a hold on, but the category continues to be not just on fire with Nestle and Kellogg to coming into it. We're going to see variations. If you think about Beyond Meat, they've had a new launch for this product, which is going to come out this week, which is their meatless meatball. And everybody's talking about, well, what does that mean? That's their third new product. And that category alone, if you think about it, has been up 150%. And so I think this is one of those things where, yes, you can argue that somebody could argue it's a fad, but I think it's trends that other companies are starting to pick up, and you're going to see more competition.
No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Arun, what are your thoughts? By the way, you mentioned overseas, over in China, they had good retail sales numbers for the first time positive for this year. That was fantastic. Final thoughts, Arun. Which ones are the buys? Which ones are the buys in food and drink and groceries and casual dining? Arun, what do you got buys on?
Yeah, so because we think the food at home play will remain stronger than many think, the packaged food companies that we like are Conagra Brands and General Mills. We have a strong buy rating on Conagra Brands. And we think Conagra Brands is undervalued because many investors are discounting the amount of leverage or debt that they have. But right now, I think having a lot of leverage or debt is good for Conagra because times are frankly really good for them. And then for General Mills, we have a buy rating on them, and we like them for their strong portfolio of center store goods and their
CAG and GIS. Yeah.
That's right. And then for traditional grocery stores, we like Kroger and Albertsons. We initiated on Albertsons last week with a buy rating, and we've had a buy rating on Kroger for some time now.
All right. Excellent. Thanks for those. Great to see you both. Arun Sundaram, equity research analyst at CFRA Research. Ryan Patel, global business executive. Great conversation.